I would like to invite you to turn with me to the book of Revelation chapter 17. The book of Revelation chapter 17, a very familiar passage to those of you who have been diligently studying Bible prophecies. We want to highlight here in this chapter something that is very important to understand in light of interfaith relationship between churches and in light of ecumenism that has been spreading. We want to look at, is it possible, is it biblical, should we as Seventh-day Adventists be part of any ecumenical movement, any interfaith gathering? And as we looked at so many times before, we have seen one abomination after another. We have seen the Seventh-day Adventist Church have been meeting or sending representatives to even gatherings such as the one we looked at before in Los Angeles just recently at the Scientology church there, so-called church. Whereas you had the pagans meeting there and the Seventh-day Adventists had sent representatives there as well. And they were celebrating what? Peace. They were celebrating. And the coming together as one. Again, all of these false prophecies or gatherings are based on what Jesus says in John chapter 17, where Jesus said that they all may be one. But who were the all that Christ was referring to here? Was he referring to the establishment? No. Was he referring to those who worship the gods of the Romans, the pagan gods? No. He was referring to this faithful few that he had, that he said that they may be one as we are one, Father, as he was praying to the Father. That's what Christ was referring to. And this unity, this oneness can only be based on John 17:17, the same chapter. Sanctify them through thy truth. What is the truth? Thy word is truth. That's the only way this unity can be accomplished. It has to be based on the word of God. Revelation 14:12 says, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God. That's the truth. The commandments of God and whose faith? Faith of Jesus. That is the truth. They must have the faith of Jesus. So therefore, we cannot be gathering with pagans. And we've looked at many other such gatherings, whereas recently we saw how this pastor from the Canadian conference there, who is a leader there within that conference, the editor of the Messenger magazine, and he was honoring and admiring and even went to India to celebrate what? The Hindu gods. And even trying to compare the Hindu gods with our Jesus, who is as he says, the light of the world. Brothers and sisters, that is an abomination. So if we are following this, I'm going to show you under what category the conferences of the Seventh-day Adventists are, and also the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Notice verse 3 of chapter 17. The Bible tells us, notice carefully. So he carried me away, the angel carried John away in the wilderness, in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit. Notice woman there. A woman represents a church. Which church is this referring to here? That is the Roman Catholic Church. Notice, I saw the woman sit where? Upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads, and what else? And 10 horns. When you look at Revelation chapter 13 and Daniel chapter 7 and 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, it tells us who this woman is. It's the same little horn of Daniel 7, that same man of sin of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. It is that same first beast of Revelation chapter 13. It is that same Babylon of chapter 18 of the Revelation. it is that same Babylon of chapter 14 as well, of Revelation, or chapter 14, verse 8, and that we were told, we were warned about to call the world out as God is about to send his plagues upon Babylon, to call God's people rather out of that system. That is the woman there that is riding the beast, and the beast represents the state. This is a unification of church and state. This is a unity between the church and the state. But who was in control? That is the church, because the church was the one riding the beast. That means controlling the state. Notice verse 4. And the woman, same woman of verse 3, was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones, and what else? Pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of water, abominations, and what else? Filthiness of her fornication. This is a very perfect definition of the Roman Catholic Church. When you look at the priesthood, when you look at the Church of Rome, St. Peter's Square, and many other Catholic churches, they are decked with gold and precious stones. They are the smallest state. The Vatican is the smallest state in the world, but at the same time, the richest, most powerful state in the world. They won't tell you that, but that is a fact. But notice verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written. What's the name? Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of, notice the word there, harlots and abominations of the earth. The Bible says that Babylon, the Roman Catholic Church, is that woman riding the beast, church and state. The Bible also says that she has daughters. But what is the title given to those daughters? Again, a woman represents a church, or those churches, harlots. Now question, why do they call harlots? Now keep in mind, this is referring to those same churches that came out of Babylon during the Reformation, with John Huss, Martin Luther, Calvin, and many other. The same churches that pull themselves out because their leaders discover errors. The abominable teachings of Babylon were contrary to the Word of God, so they pull out and started self-supported churches away from the mother church. Spirit of prophecy tells us in the book Great Controversy that the church became corrupt when the church unified itself with the state. That is a fact. History confirmed this. Now again, why do they call harlots? Well, it's because the same daughters that have moved themselves away from the woman riding the beast and now, or have been, going back to the mother. They have even now with the mother, they have held, they are teaching the same doctrines, the same wine of the mother. So therefore, they are called harlots. They are no longer Protestant churches. So therefore, if we are gathering with them, we are also part of the harlots, part of the daughters of Babylon. Notice with me on the screen what this says here. From the Exponent Telegram, October 17, 2019. Headline says, Gospel Group from Washington, D.C. to perform at All Saints Catholic Church. Internationally known, what's the word there? Ecumenical Gospel Choir, composition of praise from Washington, D.C. will perform a free concert at 4 p.m. October 27, which is a Sunday, by the way. Where? At All Saints Catholic Church, and here is the address. This event will take place where again? At the All Saints Catholic Church on Sunday. Now, again, what do the Catholic Church celebrate on Sunday? This is what they call Mass. What is the teaching of the Catholic Church when it comes to Mass? The Catholic Church teaches that this wafer that they hold up, the priests hold up at every Mass, it's the literal body of Jesus Christ. They also says that the priest has power to bring Christ down from heaven upon their altar and crucified him at every Mass. We studied this before, several videos. They have the power, they say, to bring him back down. Literally, go up to the throne of heaven and bring him back down and place him at their altar and sacrifice him over and over and over again at every Mass. This is exactly where this gathering will take place. This will be the celebration of the death of Christ. That's what Mass is. It's the celebration of the death, not the celebration of Christ resurrected on the third day to make intercession for us, to give us life and life more abundantly. No, it is a celebration of him dying. It is a celebration of Satan's victory over him. That's according to the Roman Catholic Church. Should we walk into that place and have fellowship, such fellowship with them, when they know that their teaching says that at every Mass they are crucifying our loving Savior over and over again, afresh, literally afresh. This is why Revelation 14:8, second angel message says to come out of Babylon because of her wine, of her teachings. Revelation 18, fourth angel's message, says to call our people out of Babylon once again because of her sins and her teaching. Go with me to the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 4. The question was, should we be partaking of this kind of wine? Should we walk into such a place and have fellowship with them? Notice, the Bible tells us in verse 13, notice carefully with me. Take fast hold of what? Instruction. Let her not, that is instruction, let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. Where can we find instruction? Within the pages of the Bible, the Bible, and also within the writings of Sister White. But notice, next verse. Verse 14, enter not, notice carefully, enter not into the path of, where? The wicked. And go not in the way of evil men. What else? Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn. Notice carefully. Turn from it. And do what? And pass away. The Bible tells us, counsels us, give us the instruction there to enter not into the path of the wicked. We cannot go into that Roman Catholic Church and celebrate Mass. God forbid, brothers and sisters. I don't think the General Conference will send representative there. Do you? Notice. Verse 16. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to do what? To fall. But what else will you find there when you go in such a place? Next verse. Verse 17, for they eat what? The bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. That is the teaching, the doctrines of Babylon. Bread and wine of violence. This is why, again, Revelation 14:8, Revelation 18, 1 through 4, tell us to call a people out of Babylon because of her wine. Notice another passage. Psalm chapter 26. Go backward now to the book of Psalm chapter 26. Let's do line upon line. Here a little, there a little. In the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul tells us to prove all things. We must study the Bible for ourselves. Prove all things. We have seen since 2015 such ecumenical movement going on within the Seventh-day Adventist Church with the apostate churches and even the pagan churches in a degree, in a way that we have never seen before. Now, why since 2015? What big event took place in 2015? Beside the Pope encyclical Laudato Si, beside the Pope went to the United States of America, summer 2015 was the GC session when Elder Wilson became the president of the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church. What did Elder Wilson promise us as he accepted the vote to be the next president of the church? He promised to publish the book Great Controversy. What did he give us? A few months later, the Great Hoax. Now, what does that do to the book Great Controversy? That means we cannot say anything about the papacy. Beside this, what has happened as a result of giving us the Great Hoax? He had opened the door for all kinds of abominable things. So we have some that are accusing me, that are even sending me threat for speaking the truth about what's going on in the church and what Elder Wilson has been doing or not doing. But they can kill the messenger, but you cannot do anything against the truth. Again, going back to my point here, what has happened ever since the election of Elder Wilson? We have seen apostasy within the Seventh-day Adventists in a way that we have never experienced it before. There was such a thing as apostasy and even ecumenical movement before, but not in such a degree. When after the election, shortly after the election of Elder Wilson that same year, all of a sudden now we found out in Hollywood, California, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Hollywood, California has, or should I say had, a transgender elder. Now, did this just happen that month of December 2015 when we found this out? No, that transgender was already there. But before that, we could not talk about this. It could not be exposed to the public. It was not normal for some churches to expose this. But after the election of Elder Ted Wilson, what happened? And all of a sudden, we can expose this. It becomes normal. The floodgate was open. And how did this happen? Well, He allows it. He allows it. Question for you. Is Elder Ted Wilson the president of the worldwide church? Yes. Then he is responsible for all of these abominations. Another question is, when was the last time that you heard Elder Wilson talking against the transgender elder in California? Have you heard of such a thing? If you have heard of it, there's a video out there or audio out there or maybe a letter out there about this. Please send that to me. I would love to listen to it or to read it. When was the last time have you heard of Elder Wilson speaking against the LGBT groups, the LGBT lifestyle that many of our school, colleges have embraced, proudly embraced? When was the last time you've heard Elder Wilson going against Ganun Diop for a year after his election for going to Rome, shake hands with the papacy, meeting with those pagans, with those fallen churches, with those harlots? Have you heard anything about this? No, because Elder Wilson was the one who sent Ganun Diop there. Just like Elder Wilson in 2017, during the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, where did he go? He went to Russia. Remember this? He went to Russia in ecumenical gathering with the fallen churches to celebrate what? The 500th anniversary of that very day when Luther again nailed his 95 theses on the door of Wittenberg. And what are we seeing? More abominable things, more apostasy. When was the last time, one more time, we've heard Elder Wilson actually preach the three angels' messages? Yes, many times. He mentioned the three angels' messages, but when was the last time you actually heard him preach it? As it is found in the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy, especially the book Great Controversy. Wait, we don't have that book anymore. We don't go by that anymore. We go by the great hoax that he himself has given us. Back to the Bible, chapter 26 of the book of Psalm. Notice carefully what the Word of God says in verse 4. Let's look at verse 4. I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go with, notice, dissemblers. The word dissemblers there means deceivers. Notice, verse 5. I have hated the congregation of evildoers, and will not sit where? With the wicked. So again, as Proverbs chapter 4 tells us, should we walk in there and fellowship with the wicked? Well, the Bible tells us they are evildoers. I will not sit with the wicked. Same thing that Psalm chapter 1 tells us. Notice once again, verse 5. I have hated the congregation of who? Of evildoers, and will not sit with the wicked. The word congregation there tells me that ecumenical movement, church gathering, on which day again? October 27th, which is what? A Sunday. They are gathering for Mass. Notice, let's add verse 6 to this. I will wash mine hands in what? Innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Lord. Notice, verse 7. Then I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all thy wondrous works. In ecumenical movement, you cannot publish the wondrous works of the Lord. In ecumenical movement, you cannot preach the three angels' messages, which is what the word publish there means. Let's go back to the screen here. Again, the article headline was Gospel Group from Washington, D.C. to perform at All Saints Catholic Church. The Gospel Group will also sing earlier in the day for, notice, the 11 a.m. Sunday what? Mass at All Saints. The upcoming visiting local assemble is made up of 30 voices and a small instrumental combo, and is led by Samuel Eddie Cromwell, director of St. Augustine Catholic Church Music Ministry in Washington. Notice, the group is represented by various denominations, including Roman Catholic, and who else? Seventh-day Adventists, Baptist Church of God in Christ, and non-denominational. The Sunday concert will feature genres of songs that include a mix of traditional, notice, modern and contemporary gospel. Now, I want to show you in the next slide here what they are going to tell us next. Now, as we are about to read this passage here, or the rest of the article, I want to take you to the book of Daniel chapter 3. Let's go to the book of Daniel chapter 3 with me. Notice, remember, in Daniel chapter 3, this was a great gathering on the plain of Dura. Notice carefully with me. In Daniel chapter 3, you had the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and what follows by the image? Worship. The image was set up, then followed by worship. Daniel chapter 3. Notice with me what the Word of God says in the book of Daniel chapter 3. The Bible tells us in verse 1, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. We know the story. He invited everybody to come to the plain of Dura. Remember, it was an invitation, then followed by worship. And if you don't worship, there's the death penalty waiting for you. The Bible tells us that Nebuchadnezzar used what? To cause worship, to seduce many to worship, to bow and worship the image. Notice, the Bible tells us Verse 4, then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, and what else? Sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and what are the words? All kinds of music. Then what must you do when you hear all kinds of music? Ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king have set up. And verse 6 tells us the death penalty comes if you don't dance to the tune of the music, if you don't bow down as a result of the all kinds of music. But notice what the article says. Back to the screen. Church officials said the concert is open, notice, to anyone. Everybody was present on the plain of Dura as well. Notice, church officials said the concert is open to anyone interested, especially those who participate in choirs, voice students. What's the next word? Musicians. And what are the next words? Of all kinds, and music lovers in general. What are the words? Musicians, music, and all kinds. Where did we just read this? Notice carefully. Back to verse 5. That at what time ye hear the sound of the corner, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music. This concert is about what? All kinds of musicians, all kinds of music. Interfaith gathering. Don't worry about the differences. Don't worry that we are celebrating Mass. We are, as they teach, the Catholic Church, bringing Christ down upon our altar and crucified him over and over again. Don't worry about that. Just go along with all kinds of music. Those music appeal to the flesh. They do nothing for the soul. Spiritually speaking, they do nothing. They actually lead you to perdition, to destruction. Notice what Spirit of Prophecy tells us here. Jesus prayed that his followers might be what? One. But we are not to do what? Sacrifice the truth in order to secure disunion. For we are to be sanctified through the truth. Here is the foundation of all true peace. Human wisdom would change all this, pronouncing this basis too narrow. Men would try to effect unity through concession to popular opinion. Through what? Compromise with the world. A sacrifice of vital godliness. But truth is God's basis for the unity of his people. What is the basis for unity? Truth. This is why John 17 verse 17 says, sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. The same chapter that they are using, or misusing, I should say, for this kind of interfaith, ecumenical unity. But this was not the first time that we have Adventists celebrating Mass. This was not the first time. It's the same as bringing the Pope of Rome to stand before an Adventist congregation to celebrate Mass on Sunday. Could you picture the Pope standing in an Adventist congregation and have their wafer in his hand and this disc which represents the Sun God? Can you picture this? Well, this may not happen literally, but it is happening in some other ways. When we are sending representative to those ecumenical movements, when we are sending representative to those type of gathering to celebrate Mass. And as I mentioned, this was not the first time that the Seventh-day Adventist Church sent members there to celebrate Mass. Here is another one that we cover back in November. It says, how to feel at home in church this Christmas from Hemel Today, brought to you by the Gazette, but also it says promoted by who? Seventh-day Adventists. Notice carefully. church attendance in the UK has been in steady decline for the past few decades. But nevertheless, many will have reason, be it family obligation or a desire to offer respect to a usually unconsidered God, to head to their local service for midnight what? Mass or a Christmas Day service. Whether or not you are a believer, the act of attending, what is it again? Mass at Christmas offers the opportunity to step away from the more frivolous, superficial trappings of the season to ponder more important matters. It's a window to give considered thought to your family, to your moral behavior, and to those alone or in need. Who sponsored this again? As we looked at a moment ago, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They are sponsoring, promoting what? Mass. Notice. But you may be fretting about how to behave in the church itself. Don't worry. You are not being judged on your comportment. Instead, stick to these simple guidelines. Attire, dress smart, casual. Not Sunday best. A tidy pair of jeans and a nice top is perfectly acceptable. Communion, feel free to take communion. Make the sign of the cross after you've received it. Catholic, best not to. As a sign of respect, the sign of the peace. When this is announced, shake hands with your neighbor and wish them peace be with you. Notice, midnight mass can be a misnomer. Research ahead of attendance. It may be earlier in the evening. Call and response. If you are unsure what to say, don't worry, it's fine to stay quiet. Being late? This happens more often than you think. Just enter as discreetly as possible. Come and celebrate the true meaning of Christmas by celebrating Mass in a friendly and relaxed environment. We welcome everyone to join us in carols, nativity, and much more, followed by a light of lunch. This could be the life-changing experience you have been waiting for. We look forward to seeing you. For more information, visit where? The Hemel Adventist Church.org.uk/Christmas services. Once again, who sponsored this Christmas Mass, this celebration of the death of Jesus Christ? The Seventh-day Adventist Church in UK. Here is another one that we also covered, where it shows Seventh-day Adventists are celebrating Mass with the fallen churches, the harlots, with the fallen churches, and with Roman Catholicism. Notice carefully. It says, from Advent Messenger, celebrating Mass when Adventists become what? Indistinguishable from Catholics and Evangelicals. Talking about the same event, Ecumenical Eucharist for the week of prayer for Christian unity, Christ Church, Lausanne, Switzerland, Sunday, 20th of January, 2019. Then you could see the Roman Catholic Church represent there along with the fallen churches, and you have Patrick Meander, who's a pastor for the Switzerland Conference, also representing the Seventh-day Adventist Church there. We covered this before. So it's not the first time that the Seventh-day Adventists have sent, the conferences have sent representatives to celebrate Mass, to crucify Christ over and over again. As the Bible asks the question, how great is the darkness? Can we serve two masters? Can we go and worship with Roman Catholicism, celebrating Mass, and then celebrating the Sabbath of the Lord, keeping the Sabbath of the Lord, and have this close relationship with Jesus Christ that we need to have in these last days? No, we cannot serve two masters. How great is the darkness? Go with me to the book of Matthew, forward to the book of Matthew, chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, notice with me in verse 22. Notice verse 22 with me. Let's begin in verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be what? Evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. Notice, if therefore the light that is in thee be darkness. Notice, how great is that darkness? How great is the darkness within the conference churches now? How great? It's very deep, deeper than we think. Notice, verse 24, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. How great is that darkness? Well, if we are in darkness, remember Babylon there represents darkness. That woman riding the beast represents darkness. And the harlot's children represent darkness as well. How great is the darkness if we are gathering with them? Notice on the screen what Spirit of Prophecy tells us here. Volume 14 of Manuscript Releases, 155, paragraph 2. The message given men to proclaim in these last days is not a what? Is not to be amalgamated with worldly opinions. Pause. What does the word amalgamation or amalgamated mean? To blend in together, become one. So again, context. The message given, the message God has given us in these last days to proclaim is not to be amalgamated with worldly opinion. That means we cannot join those harlot churches in ecumenical movement. Therefore, because they are fallen, remember, Babylon, second angel's message tells us, Babylon is fallen and is fallen. Because she has daughters, they are also fallen as well. So therefore, can we proclaim that message to them to expose darkness, bringing truth to expose that darkness because they are in darkness? Can we do that while we are fellowshipping with them? And interfaith movement with them? Ecumenical movement with them? No, we cannot do this. Notice carefully. In these days of peril, nothing but what? Obedience will keep men from what? Apostasy. God has bestowed on man great light and many blessings. But unless this light and these blessings are received against apostasy and what? Disobedience, when those whom God has exalted to positions of high trust turn from Him to human wisdom, their light becomes darkness. And how great is that darkness? Their entrusted capabilities are a snare to them. They become an offense to God. There can be no mockery with God without the sure result. We read in Proverbs chapter 4 to listen to the word of instruction. We cannot mock God when we think that we can go and worship with Roman Catholicism in ecumenical gathering, celebrating Mass. Brothers and sisters, this is not of God. We need to come out of this darkness. This is what we were told to help many who are in that darkness to come out of it, but yet we are taking many to this darkness. We need to sigh and cry for the abomination that is being done. Ezekiel chapter 8 and Ezekiel chapter 9 are being fulfilled right in front of our eyes. We need to follow Jesus. We need to listen to His words, not to an organization that has been corrupted and is getting even worse with its corruption and apostasy. May God give us the wisdom and the courage to stand fast, to stand firm in the face of opposition within our own brethren. God bless you.